All right, let's get this shit started. Alright everyone, I'm not going to give you too much of a bullshit intro, we're just going to roll right into it. Still talking with Hanzo29 here, and we're going to roll directly into talking about his Seven Samurai adaptation for Warframe, or Warframe adaptation for Seven Samurai? Just listen up, and let me know what you think in the comments, please. All right. Well, hey, let's talk about your project, the Seven Samurai. Are you basing it off the original movie Seven Samurai or off the anime Samurai 7? Either way, same shit. I mean, same story. Badass, you know.
The original movie. I was not a big fan of the anime, actually.
Yeah.
I sat down and gave it a watch, and I was just like, this could have been better.
Yeah.
Which I'm hoping. I truly believe that the story I'm working on can be better. So I thought it translated really well to the game, and the idea had struck me, very early on, around the time that clans were first introduced. I remember me and Bellum were just waiting. We were playing the game before the clans came out, and we were just waiting, like, oh, come on, bring the clans so we can start our group and, struggle to be successful at it. So I started piecing together the ideas, and I've watched the original movie just like over and over and over again. I love that film. And I love Kurosawa's work, and it just like fell together. You watch the show, and I started thinking, okay, well, who is this character? Who is this character? How do I translate that into the story?
Yeah.
And I based the characters on the characters of the movie, but also on the interactions with players that I've met, playing through the game.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know the clan 6 Feet Under, or in Seven Specters. They were one of the cool, like, top shadow clans for a while. But one of the guys in that clan, he wasn't in my clan, but his name is Lynch's. He used to run the Orokin website, actually. He's written into the story. I used his personality as sort of a basis for the character. The funny thing is like, as I wrote the original story for it a while ago, as the game keeps changing, I've had to change the script, because I originally imagined that Earth was kind of a wasteland. It was a desert and everything. It had just been sort of bombed out. But then they came out with a tile set, and so I had to change the story so that the whole area was a jungle, a forest, because that's all we've seen of Earth so far. Right. So the storyline follows the rough arc of the original movie, but I wanted it to sort of I wanted to show more of what was going on in the world, not just with the Tenno, but with other characters like the Corpus and the Grineer, and give them life and dialogue as well. Yeah, well, that's one of the things that I'm waiting on the green light for, because I don't know exactly what is canon. So I was very careful not to make too many assumptions about the universe and what was going on, and I tried to research as much as I could and try and draw connections to what was already established as the lore and the little hints that have been dropped. So I also wanted to give personality to the Tenno themselves, because right now, for the longest time, there's been this argument between the players about whether the Tenno are even human inside the suits.
Yeah.
But to me, I think they are human inside the suits. I mean, they're supposed to be you as a player. The main character in this story is Hanzo. Hattori Hanzo is basically loosely based on myself, but in the story, he's sort of dealing with the issue that I've been dealing with in the game about the lack of lore, and what is the purpose of the Tenno? What are they doing? And so he starts to say, well, I want to create purpose. And his character's goal becomes that they want to take the Earth back. There's all this stuff going on, and the Lotus sort of gives them orders and has them do things, but he starts thinking for himself, like, this is important, and I think this is something that I want to do, and I want to lead people to do. So it's developing narrative for those characters and as people, in that storyline. But I'm sure some people are going to come back and be like, oh, the Tenno aren't human, and blah, blah, blah.
Well, I think that if
work.
It's licensed as kind of like a reimagining, using a lot of it, but if it's kind of like an alternate, people would be have less of an issue. If it ends up being something like, actually licensed and is supposed to follow lore, well, then it's lore. You know?
That's what I'm hoping. I'm really hoping. There's some things that I do in the story that I'm hoping will become canon, that they will give me approval for.
Yeah.
One of the things that happens in the story is I want to explain how Vahek becomes the way he is. And so I tried to make sense of, originally in the game, Vahek had a different player model when the game first came out, and then they changed it when Tileset came out and he became this big robot guy.
Yep,
so in the story, I sort of try to explain how and why that happens.
I still have a video up where it's one of my first videos where I'm beating the crap out of Vahek with the Kogake. It's like a 6-second kill or something like that. And I was like, oh, wow, I killed a boss that quickly. Little did I know that the bosses weren't exactly, you know, super hard.
Well, originally they weren't, and they've slowly been sort of going over each boss and giving them changes and giving them powers and, you know, mechanical ways of beating them.
They've got a lot to do. I just destroyed Talregger last night just in a second. It was not great. And I do melee, you know. I think I went in there with I went in there with that new staff, the Tenbo, which by the way is super overpowered. I mean, it's a nice weapon. It's a beautiful weapon. It's a beautiful weapon. And I'm doing some interesting thing where I'm using the aerial attack to jump into the air, and I've got heavy impact on, and so I double ground slam, of course, because you ground slam and then you heavy impact, and I'm trying to get my hands on an aviator because I want to take less damage while I'm in the air, but still, it's another way to play fun, you know, in the game.
Yeah. Well, I believe he's the next one that's going to get reworked.
Yep.
And I think they're going to slide him in with the underwater tile sets, which will be interesting to see. I actually had somebody approach me a long time ago about redesigning a weapon for that character. And I don't know what kind of connections that they had with DE, but I had come up with a design and submitted it to them. And then the funny thing is, the weapon I designed looks a lot like Veritux.
Oh, the
sword that we have for Arkwing now. So, I don't know if somebody saw the design and thought, I mean, I can't ever confirm that. I don't know what goes on with them, but
maybe it got into.
That wouldn't be the first time that happened.
Got into the, you know, it's like, hey, what do we got left here? What can we get some ideas from? Hey, what's this? Where'd this come from? I don't know.
Like I said, I don't know who this person was talking to, but they told me that they had submitted it to them. So, and then I would like to feel like I had some kind of influence on Nikana, you know, me and a couple of other players that submitted katana designs during the contest, because I had come up with a katana design that looks pretty similar to the Dragon Nikana before the contest, the melee weapon contest that even happened.
Right.
And again, one of those things where it's, you know, some employee said something to somebody who told me, and I can't confirm it, but they basically said, well, they saw the design and your weapon is going to be in the game. But then when the contest had ended, you know, like my design was not one of the ones that won because it came down to employee choices. But, but then again, Nikana came out before any of the other weapons were completed. So I don't know if it was like they saw it and decided, yes, we need to do this weapon and we don't want to leave it up to a vote to chance it. So we're just going to make it anyway. And then we'll pick other winners, you know? Like I said, I don't know. I can't confirm any of that, but I like to think like, okay, I had some kind of influence on it. So that's kind of cool to see that. I love that weapon too.
That's pretty awesome. I love the weapon. I hardly ever play with it because it's weird. I have this weird thing with weapons that are powerful. I hardly ever use them in my videos because people already know they're amazing, you know? It's like, why am I going to show off something that everybody... It's like saying, yeah, that nuke is fucking awesome. Yes, it is. It nuked an entire city. We all know this. Now, let's take a look at how this dagger can also destroy the city. How can the dagger do it? But, No, there are ways to do it. It's funny how the kinds of things that go under people's radars as players. Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. So how far do you think you are with the progress of that story?
So the story is completely laid out, and I'm at the stage of creating dialogue for the characters, scene by scene, you know, the kinds of conversations. Like, I know the entire story, I know what is going to happen, but now it's down to writing the dialogue and the conversations throughout the story. That's where I'm at right now.
Nice.
And again, like I've sent the story layout into a member of the staff.
Nice.
And I'm waiting to hear back from them and see how they feel about it. And then I've got to go into talking to them about, you know, whether or not we'll be able to run it on a Patreon page. So I'll keep in touch with you about that as it develops.
That would be badass, man. That'd be fucking awesome. By the way, I know I would absolutely be Kikuchio because that's how I play my Volt, with melee and just reckless abandon. It's yeah.
That's
exactly
an interesting view of that character. You sort of took that in a completely different way. Yeah, because I wrote that character in the story is sort of based on Bellum. It's weird because I had to adapt. That character is almost melded into like two characters simultaneously, because in the original story, the veteran samurai, I can't remember all the characters' names off the top of my head, unfortunately. He finds another samurai who is his old friend.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that character and Kokichi's character are kind of the same thing in this story. And I really envision that character as being a rhino, being this big brute. So that character has been that way. Although I can't give away, I don't want to give away too much of the story, because there's this whole, if you know about the movie, you're starting to ask, well, who lives and who dies? Because
I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna do that. I'm oddly, you know, it's like with updates and, you know, people. I've been maining Volt since I initially had them, and I've been doing weird things with them. And people are like, "Oh, Volt Prime's coming up." I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool," you know. And they're like, "Aren't you excited?" I'm like, "Well, you know, I mean, when it gets here, we'll see," you know.
Yeah. It's it's one of those weird things where it's like, oh, well, you know, aren't you excited about this update that's coming? It's like, well, you know, I've been excited about updates before. Well,
right.
We'll see what happens.
Oh, that's like raids. Okay, so what did you think of raids? The raids? Did you see any of that?
No, I haven't watched the Depth Street, but I understand the concept. You know, we're going to be running in groups of 8, and they're going to have different things to do, which is kind of cool. I always wanted them to do that with events. Like, I wanted the events.
Yes.
I wanted an event where the clan tiers had different roles in an operation, so that like the moon clans were like the bulk of the forces who had to fight on the front line, and then you work on down to the ghost clans who had to be the infiltrators and do smaller scale stuff in one major operation.
Okay,
so
I've never heard that
I'm interested in yeah.
That sounds really fucking awesome.
Yeah. Me and Bellum were pitching ideas for events a while back, and hoping that the EU was listening. But so I'm hoping that in the raids that the different team members, like if it's 2 squads, that the 2 squads will have different objectives. Like one of them, like we play the survival missions, and we're always told, well, you're supposed to distract the forces while somebody else sneaks in and does something. Well, where's that side of the mission?
Yep.
So I'm hoping that that's kind of what that will be like, where one squad will be the infiltrators doing something while the other squad is supposed to distract them.
Yep.
And, you know, there's this kind of joint play going on between the 2 squads.
Oh yeah, no, I've made posts about that in the past, and I've seen, you know, posts here and there as well. And it's the most logical thing that I think could happen, but I don't know. I don't know why. It just doesn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, after certain updates, we've learned to be sort of cautious, because a lot of times they'll come out with something, and then if, you know, like take Melee, for instance, Melee 2.0, when that came out, you know, a lot of people were like, oh, all right, this will be cool, and it was pretty cool, but there were some things that had to be adjusted when it came out. So when it got there, a few of us were like, wait, what? You know what I mean? At the damage system. Oh my God, when they overhauled the damage system, everybody was like brought to a grinding halt trying to figure out, you know, okay, well, how does this work now? You know, it sounded exciting, but when it got there, it was just like, oh, this is kind of a growing pain now. I have to figure out how this works.
Yeah.
And,
you know,
not to mention, once I figured out how it works, I had to explain it to a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I have a channel specifically for that kind of stuff. Like, my most popular stuff is about like my Let's Learn series, and I'm not even I don't even like doing that stuff. I'm like, oh God, okay, fine. It's
I had to go and make this visual graph.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I had gone on and made this entire visual graph for players. I originally had made it for my clan members, but I put it out publicly for people to see, and I hope that helps some players. But the funny part about that is it was like once we got used to the way the damage system worked, in one sense, they would come back and make changes to it again, and then we would have to go back and figure it all out, like the elemental damage types that affected certain enemies. Because at first, when the factions came out, it was like, okay, this elemental type affects this faction. Well, later they went in and started making it so, well, it affects most of the faction except for these guys,
Yes.
these heavies, and now you have to use something else to get to them, because they wanted to make it just a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, but honestly, you don't really even feel that until who knows how far you have to go. Like, I can set one build, a corrosion and electricity, or a corrosion build or a radiation build, and I can take it against every faction. Now, how much damage I'm losing out on it, I don't really care, as long as I kill the same way as if I had modded directly for that. What I'm saying is, like, it's not enough of a difference to be noticeable, so I don't ever bother, like, really, like, if I run a weapon a certain way, some of the times, like corrosion, I'll just run it against all the factions, and I'll be fine. I'll be totally fine.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you don't really see until you get to high level. And that's the thing that I think is what gives sort of the problems in the forums when people talk about how weapons are OP or not OP or are working, because a lot of times these guys aren't taking these weapons to, high level gameplay and understanding. Like, my friend has this complaint that everybody talks trash about Rhino players, and oh, Rhino's so OP and Stomp just kills everything. It's like, yeah, but when you go into survival missions or defense missions and you get into that hour or half an hour mark,
right,
that Stomp isn't killing anything anymore. It's not. And I think it's just stopping them.
That's another thing, though. There's a lot of it's like saying the word hard. The word hard doesn't. It's variable. Running up a hill for one person is not as hard as running up a hill for another. So, no one ever really lays it. I do quite a lot in the forums or in my videos. I will lay exact number ranges down. Like, somebody recently did a melee video, and they were like, oh, level 34s are really difficult, blah, blah. And I'm like, really? No, I don't think so, man. I was killing level 41 special Grenier with level 16 Venka. You got to really define what you mean by hard, because some people were playing at like level 100 or whatever. Some people are playing at 80. If you're doing melee, you're probably playing a lot lower than that. Like, 40s to 50s is where, in my opinion, where melee only, not using powers as a primary way of killing, not using guns, but you're using your melee to take all of the kills. If you're doing that, you're going to start really hitting a cap around 50 to 60 on like the highest. Like, it gets really fucking hard because of all the status effects, because, especially if you're playing survival.
That's where yeah, and that's where it gets into that thing where some of us wish that the damage multiplier for melee would add up quicker, because once you're getting into those high levels and you're just wailing away on some guy and they won't go down, you're kind of like, okay, that multiplier needs to pick up a little bit faster.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yep. That, and we'll see. I know they finally addressed during the dev stream that they found a bug in the stamina. So they didn't really, put their foot down and say, okay, we're going to go ahead and adjust that with melee. That's the kind of stuff that doesn't make me want to play anymore, like for a while until they fix it, or at least I'll play less. We'll put it that way, because I already know all the bugs. I already know all the problems. I already know my limits. So what am I going to do here? And I don't play with groups a lot, so. Yeah,
that can get frustrating, and I hear a lot of people and their frustration with that kind of thing. Like, oh, there's this problem, and I tell them about it, but it doesn't get fixed for months or something. And that's one of those areas of disconnect that I think the players and the developers are having, is understanding why it takes them so long to do these things. It's easy to be grumpy and be like, oh yeah, guys, I don't want to play, but not sit in their shoes and wonder what's going on behind the scenes. So I don't know for sure either. I just try to be sort of objective about it.
Yeah.
The only thing I can guess is that we have to remember that what they're doing is, this is an excuse. I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but what they're doing is a business, and they are concerned about income. And I think a lot of the way that this game is set up is they're focused on constantly moving forward.
Yep.
That next update, that next wave of people buying platinum and you know, trying new things out. And that makes it difficult for them to come backwards and fix things sometimes. So that's why I think whenever we have a problem and, you know, we're waiting for them to respond, it sort of takes a while because they don't, I don't know if it's, they don't have enough staff allocated for that, or whether it's just that focus of moving forward in the next update and the next update and the next update. Yeah. So, you know, yeah, I get mad about it like everybody else, but you know, you just keep playing anyway. You either do or you don't.
Yeah, yeah, and I've been playing for over 2 years, and honestly, on the forums and in my videos, I advocate for them, and I actually do, because I'm a developer. I do web development and run teams and I run projects and go to meetings and handle budgets and all that kind of shit. I also understand that there's a lot of things that are tied to, you know, why don't you just change this one thing? Well, it seems like it's that easy, but that one thing is tied to these other things. Or, yeah, we're going to change it, but it's on this list of 50 other things that we have to do, and it's not actually as important as these other things that we have to do. So I know it's important to you, because you're thinking about it all day long, every day, but we are thinking about everything. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. There's a bigger picture.
Yeah. Alright, that's what I got for y'all. We talked about a lot of stuff, I know, and we got more to come next episode. Thanks for listening. Please leave a comment. Please share this. And we'll see you next time.